One of our best resources is the rumor mill. One of our best resources is the rumor mill, believe it or not. If your friends start saying, oh, I heard so-and-so may be involved or heard something else, make sure you get a hold of us, okay?
Hi everyone, it's Ruby G. Welcome to Truth and Neurons. In the immediate aftermath of the November 13th, 2022 homicides at 1122 King Road, Moscow police documented evidence that was collected from neighbours interviewed and their movements throughout the crime scene. The supplemental reports paint a picture of an investigation where they found rolled bills, blue powder suspected to be narcotics, blood samples, interviews with sorority presidents about party culture. But when you read through the Supplement 14 and Supplement 17, amongst others, two names that circulate persistently in local conversation are completely absent: Emma Bailey and Demetrius Robinson. What makes their absence noteworthy isn't conspiracy, it's context. Body cam footage from an earlier party at the same address suggests that a young woman can be identified as Emma Bailey.
Hey ladies, how's it going?
Good, how are you?
Good.
We're not actually I don't
You don't live in this here?
No, I don't.
Here for noise complaints.
Social media posts, some which may now be deleted or difficult to locate, showed Emma expressing grief for the victims she described as friends. Yet nowhere in the early investigative documents do we find any record of law enforcement seeking her statement or Demetrius's. We're not pointing fingers, we're examining the gaps, what they might mean psychologically, investigatively, and for a community still searching for answers, and rightly so. Let me walk you through what we can verify. Supplemental Report 14, filed by Officer Danny Vargas on November 14th, 2022, documents the initial crime scene processing. It details evidence collection, the rolled $2 bill, substances suspected to be controlled, biological samples. It mentions interviews with neighbours on the Walenta address behind King Road, Supplement 17, filed by Officer Justin Dean the following day, which contains a phone interview with the university sorority president about party culture, drug use and activity at local bars that night. Neither document mentions Emma Bailey, neither mentions Demetrius Robinson or Washington. Now, absence from early reports doesn't automatically signify anything sinister. Investigations triage witnesses based on proximity to the time of the crime, forensic evidence and investigative leads. If detectives had no evidence placing someone at the scene during the critical window, they might reasonably never follow it up. But the body cam footage shows prior presence at the location, and when locals report drug-related activity at that address, the question becomes, why weren't these individuals at least ruled out through formal interview? Human brains are remarkably uncomfortable with uncertainty. When authorities don't explain why certain avenues weren't pursued, communities fill that silence with their own narratives. And this isn't irrationality. It's a predictable response to trauma and incomplete information. Moscow is a small university town. The victims were beloved students. In the aftermath of such violence, everyone who had any connection to that house became part of an informal mental map residents were constructing. Emma Bailey's visible presence in earlier footage, combined with her absence from investigative records, created cognitive dissonance. People expect thoroughness. When they don't see it, or they can't see it, because of sealed records and gag orders, rumour becomes a substitute for closure.
So when we go look at this house in here at 1122 King, if is it true that people in that house have sold products?
Yes. Yeah, 100%.
And you've bought from them, or other people have, or you guys like throw down
100%.
together?
Yep, all the above.
All the above. So like you would just like know to go there to get like product?
Well, like I said, I mean, they're your friends too. So you go over there after you get done with your homework, and it's a Thursday afternoon, but you want to have a couple drinks and you maybe get a little fucked up, but not too fucked up. And so you're just gonna go, hang out with these girls and maybe do a little bit, and drink a little bit and play a couple beer games, be back by like midnight, right? And then, and then on the weekends, if it was going to get obliterated, go over and just get obliterated. Yeah, oh yeah, 100%, and they would stay up with you. Yeah, 100%. They were troopers, pretty hard.
Wait, who? Like, so you mean like the Emma Baileys of the world?
Yeah, so you remember how I told you how there were like two houses over there and how it kind of connected with the other stuff that you saw?
Yeah.
Most of, I guess, our experience was at the other house, not at this house that everything happened at.
Like that's like that's known.
Yeah, there's some of the dealers here.
There's
like,
some of them.
Well, like they're like the dealers in town, is what I would say.
Okay, and then like
I would say most of the party drugs are coming through. We're coming through them.
Okay. Was Emma known to be acquaintances or cool with any of the victims?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And then you would never classify as anybody in the house as being like, hey, those are drug dealers? Would you ever say that? Would you ever be like, although those people are drug dealers? Or would you just say like those people are like party? You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, they don't. I mean, and that's what I was saying too. Like, they're more your friends than they are your dealers. They just happen to be your friends that have fun stuff that you can buy off them.
The 2023 Washington case and the question of immunity. Emma Bailey and Demetrius were charged in Washington state in 2023 in connection with a University of Idaho student's overdose. Those charges were later dropped. Prosecutors cited insufficient evidence to prove direct causation. They couldn't definitively link the substance provided to the fatal outcome. That dismissal doesn't imply immunity, and it's worth being precise about what immunity actually means. Legal immunity must be granted formally, usually in exchange for testimony, and it appears in court filings. No such immunity agreement exists in public record for either Bailey or Demetrius in relation to the Idaho homicides. The more mundane explanation is likely the correct one. The Washington case collapsed due to evidentiary weakness. A case involving drug distribution can feel like preferential treatment, especially when those same individuals appear connected, however tangentially, to the scene of an unsolved quadruple homicide. Now we turn to one of the most psychologically complex elements of this story, the witness, some call Dot. According to early accounts that circulated locally, Dot attended a gathering at the house next door to 1122 King Road on the night of the murders. She reportedly told, in her words, she told Ann Taylor that around 3:15 a.m., or just after 3, she heard a scream that sounded, in her words, like someone being mauled by a bear. In subsequent conversations, she allegedly described seeing 5 people outside the residence later that morning around 8 a.m. And these people included Emma Bailey, Demetrius, a fair-skinned man with light hair, someone in a hoodie, and survivor Dylan Mortensen, smoking marijuana on the back patio.
I remember seeing Dylan because I know Dylan, she's taller, so I can kind of pick her out. And I know Emma was there, and Emma's friend, and there was a guy that was also, like I said, really pale. I wasn't sure who he was, with light colored hair. And there was another guy that had a hoodie on that I couldn't identify. But they were all just literally passing a joint around because they would wake up and smoke, and they were just all smoking. Like, I would have never guessed anything happened at that house. You go to the right of the balcony, the house is literally like next to my shoulder on the right hand side. So it's like,
that house.
It's literally there. And we had a lot of people there.
Okay.
Yeah, we were partying just like an average night. But I look back on it now, like it literally tears me up inside, because I'm like, could I have done more? Could I have did I just bypass something, but it was like scream. It was a scream. There was one scream. It was it literally it sounded like somebody was being mauled by a bear.
So some months later, she recanted. She admitted that she had fabricated, lied, or misremembered the account. From a psychological perspective, this is where things get genuinely interesting, not because of what she said, but because of the why behind the retraction. Witness recantation happens more often than the public realizes, and for reasons that have nothing to do with malice. The first is memory distortion under stress. Traumatic events are encoded in fragments, sensory flashes, emotional impressions, disconnected images. The more a person revisits that event through conversation, media exposure, or imagination, the more those fragments can reshape themselves. This is especially true when the witness is embedded in a community where everyone is talking about the case. Then there's social pressure. In a small town, being wrong publicly can have devastating social consequences. If Dot began to doubt her own memory, or if she realized her statement was being weaponized in online theories, the safest psychological move is to withdraw. Retraction restores social equilibrium. But there's a third possibility, and it's the one that haunts cases like this: fear. Not abstract fear, but the concrete, visceral kind. Fear of retraction, fear of retaliation, fear of becoming the next victim, fear of being targeted for speaking. Rural exemplifies how fragile witness testimony becomes when grief, rumour, and fear intersect. As time passed, another layer emerged. Some locals began suggesting that Dot hadn't actually been at the party herself, that she was repeating what a younger person, perhaps someone hesitant to come forward, had told her. In psychology, we call this vicarious memory, when one person internalizes another's experiences so completely that over time they come to believe that they were present. It's not deception in the criminal sense, it's a narrative merging under stress. Someone hears a friend's vivid description, fills in the contextual details, retells it with growing confidence, and eventually the line between "I was told" and "I was there" blurs. This happens faster in close-knit communities. A story passes through 3 people in 2 days, and by the third telling, details have shifted, emphasis has changed, and memory has fused with imagination. When new pressure arrives, legal scrutiny, online harassment, fear of exposure, the witness suddenly steps back, unsure what was real and what was borrowed. Whether Dot's account was first-hand or second-hand, her silence still reveals the profound instability of memory when trauma, social contagion, and fear converge. After Dot withdrew her statement, her social media activity quietened. Posts from others who had commented about that weekend also disappeared. Emma Bailey's expressions of grief for her friends, once visible, became harder to locate. Footprints to survive harassment, to reclaim privacy, to stop vilifying trauma. In the aftermath of high-profile violence, being associated, even innocently, with the case can feel like being trapped in the spotlight. The instinct to vanish is human, but in the absence of transparency from authorities, that silence takes on ominous dimensions. When investigators don't explain why certain leads weren't pursued, when gag orders prevent defense attorneys from speaking publicly, when body cam footage and witness interviews remain sealed, the community is left to interpret silence, and silence in the human imagination often sounds like guilt. This is a psychological paradox of sealed investigations. The less information available, the more the public will construct its own. The rumour mill. Once Dot's story, however, became accurate or inaccurate, was connected to the body cam footage of Emma Bailey, a theory solidified in online true culture spaces, it spread quickly because it offered something the official narrative didn't: a comprehensive explanation that accounted for drug activity, prior presence, and witness testimony. Human brains crave coherence. When faced with chaos, we construct narratives that impose order. The Bailey-Demetrius theory wasn't popular because it was proven. It was popular because it felt complete. It made sense. It had characters, motive, means, and a timeline. It filled the informational void. This is how rumor contagion works. One person posts a theory, a second person adds a detail, a third connects it to body cam footage. Within weeks, what started as speculation becomes treated as fact, circulated across platforms, repeated in podcasts, embedded in the community's collective memory, even though no forensic evidence supports it and no drug charges have been filed. The psychological risk here isn't just reputational damage to innocent people. It's that the more that the public fixates on one narrative, the more resistant they become to alternatives, including the actual truth when it eventually emerges. Cross fingers. So why weren't Emma Bailey and Demetrius formally interviewed in those early supplemental reports? There are several plausible explanations. First, they may have been interviewed informally, and those conversations simply aren't reflected in the documents released so far. Police generate thousands of pages of reports in major investigations. Only a fraction become public. Could be shady. If investigators determined through other means, phone records, alibis, lack of forensic connection, that these individuals had no proximity to the crime during the relevant window, formal interviews might have been deprioritized. Also, most pragmatically, community frustration is valid. Lack of transparency breeds suspicion. If Bailey and Demetrius were ruled out, why not say so? If they were interviewed, why aren't those summaries included in discovery? Gag orders and sealed documents may protect the integrity of prosecution, but they also erode public trust. What we're left with is a case study in how missing information shapes collective psychology. Dot's testimony, once offered and then withdrawn, tells us more about the fragility of memory and the power of fear than it does about guilt or innocence. But the fact that these names persist, that locals still whisper them, that online communities still analyse them, reveals something about human psychology in the aftermath of violence. We need answers. We need the world to make sense again. And when official channels don't provide that, we construct our own explanations, however incomplete or unverified. This is human. This isn't about accusing anyone who hasn't been charged. It's about understanding the silences in an investigation, what they mean, why they happen, and what they cost a community still waiting for closure. Because sometimes the most revealing evidence isn't what's in the file, it's what's missing. That's all for today's episode of Truth and Neurons. If you found this analysis helpful, don't forget to like and subscribe. Leave a comment below with your thoughts on the ethics of media commentary in high-profile cases. Until next time, keep thinking critically and questioning everything. Cheers, bye.